Hey yogis, welcome back. My name is Kelsey. Thanks so much for joining me on your mat today. Today we're just going to do a few pretty simple stretches, focusing all on the hips, creating movement, opening up, creating a little bit of space for you. Whether you're moving on with your practice, that will help you have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more space, and therefore also more strength. Or maybe you're just going to carry on with the rest of your day, but you'll have a little bit more mobility, you'll move a little freer in your own body. All right, so let's just jump in and get right to it. My favorite hip stretches. All right, so the first one, a nice one to warm up, is Malasana, that yogi squat. So when we come into a yogi squat, we want the toes to face outward, the heels to come in, sitting as deeply as you can. And for some, that means they're up here because their heels don't want to come down to the ground. I have a little bit more ankle mobility. With time, you may be able to as well. But really what I want you to focus on is coming right to the center of your ankles. So don't roll to the outer edges or the inner. Try to at least stay flat right through the ball of all of your toes. And then if you can bring your heels down, do so. Really focusing on centering right through the ankles. And you're gonna drop your hips nice and low. We're not gonna have our hips up high, but get them as low as you're able to. And then lift your chest. Now it's easy in this position to kind of let your pelvic floor just kind of fall away from you. That can be a bad habit for those of us that have given birth. Really need to focus on keeping that pelvic floor lifted, drawing up and in. You can bring your elbows to the insides of your knees, hands together at your heart. Really open up your chest. Low belly pulling in. Again, lift that pelvic floor. It likes to fall away from you again and again, so always bringing your attention back to that. And then once you find a nice steady spot here, then you can start with a little bit of movement, maybe swaying the hips from side to side, rotating, opening up the knees a little bit. Maybe even bringing the hands down to the mat to further open up through the knees, which really is just externally rotating those hips. Another nice little variation here is to bring the right shoulder to the inside of the right knee. I always like doing this one as it always helps me to kind of crack my neck, a little bit of mobility through that upper spine. Oh yeah, both sides, yes. After you've been in this yogi squat for a moment, we are going to make our way into a low lunge. So let's keep that right foot forward on our mat, step the left foot back. Now it's up to you if you want to bring the back knee down, or if you want to keep it lifted, or maybe move in and out through both. So you want to really let the hips sink down. So drop the hips low, and if that means lowering the knee so that you can really let the hips come down towards the ground. And then if you find a little bit more space as you're here for a little longer, take it from just being a low lunge into maybe this lizard lunge. You can bring your forearms, elbows down to the inside of that right foot. Feeling a nice stretch through the front of that left hip flexor. And a good stretch, deep compression through the right hip. Let's stay here for just a few more breaths. Make sure that you're hugging your right knee towards your right shoulder. We don't want it to flare out to the side. Keep everything nice and tight towards that midline, hugging towards the body. All right, let's switch sides. So come onto your hands if you're down onto your elbows. Press the floor away as you step that right foot back. And let's switch sides. So now stepping your left foot forward. And either lowering to that back knee or not. I'm gonna stay up on my hands for just a moment till I start to sink into my hips a little bit more. Breathing into that space, always sending our breath wherever we feel tension. I'm ready for a little more. So making sure that the legs stay engaged here. You don't want them to just soften and flop. I'm really staying engaged so that left knee stays towards the shoulder, even though I'm up on the balls of the toes here, and I have that right knee lifted. So even if you have the knee down, you still want those muscles engaged throughout the right leg. Because otherwise you become soft all the way through, even up into the glutes. And then you can get a little pressure into your low back, and we don't want that. We want this to be above the hips. Take another breath here. All right, now let's press our hands down and send that left leg back. Stay out in downward facing dog for just a minute. Maybe sway a little from side to side, pedaling through the feet. I'm gonna do like a little yogi squat here, so bending the knees and straightening them. Let's do it a few times. Drop the hips low and lift them high. Once more, drop, little wiggle, and hips come back up again. All right, we're ready to go a little bit deeper now. So we're gonna come into a pigeon pose. So if you'd like, lift that right leg up nice and high first, get that length. Oh, and then bring that right knee forward. Right knee comes towards the right wrist, right ankle towards the left. And start to settle in. Now this is a tricky posture. If you have any knee injuries, this may not be for you. So staying squared over the hips could definitely cause further pinching, irritation on that right knee. So I want you to just come all the way onto that right hip and just kind of sitting off to the side. But if you're able, kind of squaring the hips more towards the front. Tuck your pelvis underneath you so that your tailbone anchors down towards the floor, activating your glutes a little bit so that your low back is protected. Really focus on sending that left leg away. And it's up to you whether you want that front shin to be tucked in close to the body, or if you'd like to have the shin a little bit more parallel to the front of your mat. And then flexing the right foot helps give a little space through the knee. And then as you're ready, coming down onto the forearms, maybe even all the way down, forehead on the mat. And then I want you to think about like really letting go through the hip space. Stop fighting whatever it is that you're fighting for. We get so used to holding, to grasping certain muscles, not necessarily for good reasons. They just kind of do that as we get little injuries and tensions and tightness. And then we hold, and then we hold, and that can cause injuries. So we have to focus on relearning to loosen, to let go. And sometimes that can be in the jaw, in the forehead, in the upper back or the shoulders. Maybe softening a little further as you breathe in. Stay in this space for a moment. And let's take a little variation here. So tuck your left toes and lift that left knee. Woo, there's a little bit more. If this is too much, just stay in pigeon. Lower that left knee, engage, do that a few times. Keep the glutes activated, chest lifted. Maybe one or two more times lifting that left knee, really engaging the left glutes. Very nice. All right, press into the heels of your hands. Push the floor away and step back, downward facing dog. Pedal through the feet a little bit. And already noticing what a difference there is from one side to the other. And let's lift that left leg, making our way into the second side. Left knee draws in, left knee comes towards the left wrist. Left ankle towards the right. And think about extending that right leg back behind you. Slightly tucking the tail underneath. Maybe keeping your chest lifted for a moment. See, I'm already noticing the difference from side to side. I was able to have my shin a little bit more parallel to the front of my mat on my right leg. And that's just not happening on my left. And I'm not going to make my knee take the beating for that. So just accept the difference from side to side. This side may be your more loose side, maybe more tight. Doesn't really matter, you know, it's just that we notice And then maybe we can spend a little extra time working on the side that has more tension. Breathing in, relaxing. And then you're ready, maybe working down onto the forearms, the elbows. Send that right leg away. And then start that softening process. Relax your jaw and your face and your shoulders. Maybe coming all the way down if that feels doable, feels good. Working our way back up onto our hands. Let's do the same thing as we did on the left. So tuck the right toes underneath you and lift that back knee. Activate the right glutes and lower it down. Let's do that about 4 or 5 times. Tuck the toes, engage that leg. That seems to just give me a little something extra, so hopefully it does that for you as well. Another option that you could always take too is to bend the back leg, and so like bringing the back toes up towards the face. You could always grab your foot with your hand, take a bind. Now planting the hands, let's step back into downward facing dog. So tuck those right toes, push the floor away, left foot joins right. And let's pedal it out for a moment. Little sway from side to side. Coming back into that little downward dog, yogi squat, straightening and bending. Alright, so the next one we're going to do is usually something that we do while we flow, and it's called Skandasana. I've also heard it referred to as a ninja pose. So let's step the right foot over to the right, maybe a little angle out to the side, and we're going to sit deeply towards that right hip, extend through the left side. Now you can point the toes and stay on the heel, or you can get up higher and kind of flatten the foot if you need to. The toes can point up towards the ceiling, be where you need to be. Now if you need to keep the hands down for balance, no worries. But you can also bring the hands up to your heart, which then lets you use this right elbow to kind of open up that right side. Now let's switch sides, go over to the left, hands down, start to bend that left knee and straighten the right leg. Opening up that left side. And let's move a little from side to side. So we're just going to swim our hands across the floor as we go from side to side. So right knee bends, left leg goes straight, and switching sides. And as you gain strength through the legs and the hips, maybe you can take the hands out of it, staying nice and low. And then something else I like to add on too is once I get into this Skandasana, this ninja, when you find that position, sit down and rise back up. Maybe even balancing on the balls of the toes, add a little challenge, sit down. Come on up to the balls of the toes. Let's switch sides. With or without the hands. Left knee is bent now. Sitting back and raise back up. Sitting down and back up. Let's do that one more time each side. Right knee bends and sit and raise up. Sit and raise back up. And left side, once more. Left knee bends, sit down and lift. And don't worry if you feel wobbly and you gotta use your hands. Who really cares, right? All right, let's find a forward fold right through the center. So keep your legs wide. Toes can slightly point out or they can be parallel. What do you need through your hips? And just start to fold. So you can bring your hands down flat. You can come onto your forearms, just fold. I knew I felt a hair. I hate that. Coming out of the hands, raising up halfway. Big inhale, exhale. Let's come back to that yogi squat. So I'm gonna hop my feet together, heels in, toes out. Oh man, what a difference from that first yogi squat that we did at the very beginning of our practice here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and sit down. I'm gonna take it a little bit deeper. Not exactly going to legs behind the head yet or anything, but we're going to do some of the beginning postures if that's something that you'd ever want to find. So I'm gonna bend the knees up, cross the ankle, so right ankle comes over the left knee. And for some, this may be enough. You know, if you have to have your left foot further away, that gives you a little more space. You deepen it by bringing that left foot in closer. And the more that you can get that right shin by the chest, the more you're gonna feel it through that right hip. Keeping the right toes flexed back. Breathing into that hip space. Sitting up nice and tall. You can see I'm using my hands for some support. All right, so now I'm gonna bring that left shin down, but still keeping the right shin up here by my chest. I'm gonna put the right foot in the left elbow nook and the right knee in the right elbow nook. And just hugging my shin in nice and close to the body. And just kind of rocking it back and forth. Kind of rocking it like you would a baby, getting some mobility, some movement through that hip space, maybe making little circular motions. Very nice. And then what I want you to see if you can do is, as you bring your arm around your leg and your foot for support, see if you can bring your big toe up towards your third eye. Still sitting up. So we don't want to get the rounding when we do it. We want to see if we can sit up as straight as possible and bringing our foot towards our third eye. And if you're not there yet, still breathing in, trying. That's how we grow. And then if that's accessible, then the next thing that we want to try to do is bring the foot towards the ear. Kind of like a phone. So then the knee has to come out to the side in order for that motion to happen. If you feel any pain or pinching through the knee, we back away. We don't do that. We don't ever want to do that. And release the right leg. Let's take the second side. So now keep the right knee bent. Bring the left ankle over the right knee area. And start to sit up. Bringing that shin towards the chest as much as you're able. Left toes flex back. A little swing. Now I'm going to go ahead and release that right leg and take the left shin into my arm. So left ankle, left foot sits in the right elbow nook, left knee in the right, or I'm sorry, in the left elbow nook. Just hugging the shin in as much as we can. And starting to rock and find space. After you've breathed in here, then go ahead and grab onto the ankle and the foot. See if you can bring the big toe up towards the third eye. So knee moves away and lift the toe. If you feel this in the knee, none of that. Then we just sit up and we bring it to the same height, but further away from the body. So not in, but just lift it. If that was no big deal, I'm not sure who it's not a big deal for, because it's tough, it really is. Then we go ahead and we grab the foot, knee comes away, hip opens up, and we bring the foot towards the ear. Alrighty. So after that, let's go ahead and come down onto our back. Same type of thing we're gonna do, but we're gonna do it reclined. Cross the right ankle over the left knee. Hug that left shin in nice and close. Maybe straighten out the left leg. Holding it as close to the chest as you can. Keep the right foot flexed. Again, if you're up here, no worries. No worries. Just breathe into your space, wherever you are. So yeah, I am stretching a little bit through the back of the left leg, but what I'm feeling mostly is through the right hip. And the more I hug this into the body, the more that I feel through the right hip space. Last breath. And let's release that and switch sides. And so now left ankle crosses over the right knee. And either hugging in front of the right shin or straightening out the right leg and drawing it in close to the body. Go ahead and release that. Now if you are wanting to work on that legs behind the head, the nice place to begin working on that is on your back. So instead of sitting up where you also have to focus on balance, doing it when you're laying down is a lot more attainable. So we would bring the legs up, letting them bend out to the side. I grab kind of through the legs to the outsides of the ankles. I want to bring them kind of underneath the shoulders best I can. My hair's in the way. And then once I have this deep space where my shoulders are kind of on top of the legs, then maybe I can cross the ankles and bring them behind the head. And releasing that, just stretch out the legs, opening up nice and wide. I like to kind of grab the heels, pointing the toes down if you're able. You can grab behind the calves. But I like having the toes face down as that just helps externally rotate the hips again. Bring the legs together. Let's roll up to sit down on our shins, rolling up. So because we've done all this external hip rotation, let's end it on some internal hip rotation. So if you can, bringing the knees towards each other, opening up the ankles, and sitting down between them. This is one of those postures that was easy for me for so long that I thought, I don't need to do it. And I stopped doing it, and I got some serious little tensions and tightness and injuries. So now I'm like, you know what? We have to work both sides. We can't just externally rotate. We also have to internally rotate. Now, if this is too hard and you can't sit between the heels, like so, then what I would have you do is either stick a block underneath you to lift you up, or bring the feet together and sit right up on the heels. And then as you're in this space a little longer, maybe you can open them up, use your hands to just slowly start to lower yourself down. Now, if you can sit between the heels and this is not too big of a deal for you, then maybe you walk your hands forward and you start to fold over your legs. Breathing into this hero's pose. Feeling the tightness on the insides of the thighs, on that inside of the knee. As long as it's just tight and uncomfortable, stay with it, breathe into it, let that go. Now if it's searing, burning, really painful, that's not to be ignored, and you should come out of the posture and either use a modification or skip that pose for now until you found a little bit more space. But to be uncomfortable in yoga, that's somewhat to be expected. Otherwise, nothing is really shifting, nothing is changing. So be okay with being uneasy, being uncomfortable. Breathe into those things and let them go. So right here in this hero's pose, we will wrap things up. You guys can move on with the rest of your practice or the rest of your day. If you like this video, please guys give me a thumbs up. If it wasn't exactly what you needed and there's something else that you're looking for, please leave me a comment in the comment section. That way I can get videos up for you that you need that will help you in your life and your yoga practice. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. Hopefully you give me a subscribe and you can follow me in my yoga journey and I can help you with yours. You guys take care and namaste.